Alrighty, let's do this thing. Let's settle in. And whenever Miriam settles in, then we'll start the language.
Galashigara Sinkashtairo. Torisicashtaira, Nikarais to Lesicashtaira. Kinavasin tanto, Levesicashtaira. No carera. Lesicastiro, Paresicashtaira, no cresi tanto. Torisicashtairo, Negarayanta. Porisish naticarisa toda. Kiravastito, Poricasto. Trinta tal sicastito. Prikastai, Nikarala si shando pasi, Trikashtiam prekasaito, Prikastit Nikarasi shaiti. Trabanstito, Nakarai Purisicasto, Trikastaito, la Sikastai. Nakarai posso statandato. Prisicastino, Triarantan, le Castiraito. Triasitita, Urisicasto. Risicashtairo, la Sikastai, no Carabana Sicairo. O la vera sikashana umpa kinaras. La sinanto teriasita ito le sikashta na trampa corisita presentando le setika ista nekena unta le sikashtoro. Pala sinta no carira sititicare sto taria bana caresita stiro. Tikaravo si shatter kalara si kastira por si kosto trasi kasto trata di ratiti si kastai mo kane sintandro la sikan kirava si kastiro ma caresito caresatasto poi si shita le si kastaro reala si calto devi onto ma si tendro si kasto to pip Prisicashto, pip, tricastato, lesicashte tut, grasin tanto. Na, trisitanto, lesicashtai tot, lesicashto turo. Macastaino, paresicastito, tricarete, sicastai. Trisicasto, pasicasti, na creavsa. Paresicasto, dincaraceta.
All right. Let's continue to settle in to the field of this activation. Because as much as we're going to teach today, there's also quite a bit energetically that's available. So as you continue to breathe and settle in without having to figure out what it is you need to do or think, as simply as you breathe, you settle deeper into you and into any of the realizations or activations that are here present for you particularly. As David mentioned, we're zooming out a little bit, far more than we typically do. And we're making some distinctions that we don't often make. To be able to understand reality, the main point of today's transmission is also to be able to understand who you are, what you're doing here, the purpose of the light, and the purpose of any other energetics that may wish to do anything else. And in this, we hope to validate your intuitive knowing and to give some weight behind what it truly is that you're feeling when you check in and trust yourself. Why that's so profound, not just for you to solidify in everything you're becoming, not just because it's your life's mission and purpose here on planet Earth to solidify into everything you're becoming, but because on the grandest scales of reality, the thing that you're checking in with is all of divinity and this larger orchestration of light. The thing that you're checking in with is your role today in that very moment for how to bring more light to this planet, how to anchor it even more deeply here, and how to radiate your essence and that light out into the world, creating ripple effects that are difficult to even begin to explain. So we wish to start by speaking about God, all of divinity, all that is, source, universe, however you like to think of this, or whatever words you may use. Recently, in your collective, you've begun to realize that divinity isn't really that separate from you as an individual. You hear things like you're a droplet of the divine, that you're a piece of all that is. And many people look back to the religious traditions and see figures like Christ not being a savior for all of mankind, separate from mankind, but being a model of that recognition of I am of God. I was sent here by God. And I'm a piece of this larger network of divinity. But for this to make sense, beyond just the felt sense, it's helpful to land some metaphors, which is why we do use this seed of life image to be able to explain what we mean by an oversoul to begin with, and what we mean by all of divinity and your place within it. So one of the best ways we have at this time to be able to transmit this idea is through this metaphor of the seed of life, with you as that center circle, and your connectedness with other whole individual circles, your connectedness with all of the other pieces of the divine. So if you take this image and continue to draw circles all the way out, one circle for every single individuated soul in all of existence, you would have the base layer of this structure of all of divinity. You would have all of divinity. But divinity is not just an ocean full of droplets. Divinity, just like many other things, has a structure. And that structure is also represented within this symbol, where there are a collective of individual souls that are all a piece of a collective known as the Oversoul. And the reason why there is a whole circle around that Oversoul is because you can view the Oversoul as its own individuated soul in some way. It is a collective, and it is also an individual intelligence. This is no different from how all that is, or God, or the biggest possible sliver of all that is, of divinity, you can call God. Everything you can call God. Similarly, this collective of individuated souls you can call the Oversoul. So the reason why, from our perspective, it's most helpful to call in your Oversoul versus to call in all of divinity is because of the role that that Oversoul plays. The whole point of that Oversoul structure is to be, in a way, a project manager for all of the individuated souls. So thankfully, you here, your soul anchored into your body, don't have to figure out what's best for all of divinity in a moment's time. You don't have to have access to all of the wisdom in all of existence to check every single decision against what's for the benefit of everything. Because the Oversoul structure is constantly doing that in every single moment. And is not doing that, not just doing that for what is coming into existence, but for everything that's possible. All of the possible decisions being made on Earth by everyone there, all of the project managers for all of the souls on Earth are looking at all of the probabilities and are helping to energize the paths or timelines for the collective and on the individual level that are for the highest benefit of everything. This is how the light works. This is how divinity in its purest form works. And on the ground floor, it's as simple as checking in, feeling your connection to all of divinity by acknowledging that Oversoul unit. I call in my Oversoul, buffering out a little bit of the pushback that may come, or the energetics that may wish to pretend they are you. I ask to be disconnected from the collective and calling in your truest soul essence, remembering who and what you truly are, and finding those intuitive pings, finding those downloads. Because a download is really the end result of a massive calculation that's being done by your Oversoul that says what's best for you as an individual, that's also best for your community, for your family, for your country, for the planet, and not just all of Earth, but all of existence, including any other beings living anywhere else, any other souls that are a piece of this larger network of divinity. All of these calculations are being distilled down into, and here's the decision, or here's the choice, here's the inspiration, here's the creation, here's the intelligence, here's the business, here's the product or service or offering, here's the thing that is most aligned with everything, that will benefit not just you, but everyone around you. That's really what those downloads are. They're instructions from these higher units of consciousness, the Oversoul unit that you're a piece of, in the same way you're a piece of all of divinity. They're this Oversoul unit making all of these calculations and feeding you down the truth of what's really here in this moment, the absolute best path forward. So if you imagine all of divinity as a body, a human body, and you are a cell, let's say you're a heart cell, or an immune cell, or a neuron in the brain, and there are countless metaphors that we could unpack here for the different functions in the body and how they play out to your unique soul essence. But the point in all of this is if you are a cell in a heart, your Oversoul in a way is that heart. And that heart is helping and working with the rest of the entire body. So divinity in its purest form in light, in what we call the second paradigm, is many, many individual cells working within larger units that are helping to organize those cells to work for the whole body. You are a cell in a body, and your intuitive guidance, your knowing, your truth, helps you to work in alignment with that body for the overall well-being of that body. And when the body is healthy, you are healthier. We can view this as the base piece of reality that's here all the time. But on top of that are individuated souls that think they can do better. And this we call the first paradigm. This is the paradigm of what you would call darkness, what you would call corruption. Because all this paradigm really is receiving the instructions for how to benefit the entire body and saying, you know what, I think I can do better for me. So I'm going to manipulate the energy and find other timelines and other openings, because I think if I do that instead of this, I can get more for me. I can do this better. So it's a disconnecting from the project manager, silencing the emails, and saying, I'm going to be my own project manager. I'm going to figure out my own life because I can do better than what's already here in existence. And when you know that this is the thing that's already here in existence, this is how reality is meant to work, it's an obvious choice. But for so many individuals on planet Earth, living in a collective that doesn't fully acknowledge soul and truth and the Oversoul structure and the structure of all of divinity and this larger orchestration of light and truth, it can feel as though the only option is to figure out how to fend for yourself, to figure out what to do, to be okay, to be safe. And not just to be okay, but to then get your needs met. To have your wants fulfilled. So unknowingly, a large percentage of the population is living in what we call the first paradigm fairly unconsciously. Not because they want to or because they've made that decision consciously, but because it's what they were born into, it's the paradigm they were born into, the collective they were born into, the societal structure they were born into, and because they don't realize there's another way. So to help make this really personal, when you're in an interaction with someone and you feel the energy get a bit wonky, you feel something happening there that doesn't quite feel right, what you're feeling is that there's a timeline, there's a potentiality that's being energized by all of divinity that seems so obvious. I pay you this money and you offer this service, or you pay me this money and I offer you this service. But the person that you're speaking to, the interaction that you're in, the circumstance that you're in feels weird because the other person's actively choosing to not do that thing or follow that truth and is instead deciding to run something else that they think they can get more from or they think would work better. When you know this, manipulation, coercion, corruption become incredibly obvious. Because you trust yourself to be able to spot it and say, there's something not right here. This isn't the timeline that I'm feeling here. This isn't the reality that I'm feeling wants to be birthed here on planet Earth. This isn't the thing that I'm getting in my own intuitive guidance. And when you trust yourself, you're able to then opt out of those circumstances and say no to being manipulated into something designed to get something for the other person at your expense or at the expense of other individuals, of the ecosystem, of something else. Because the fascinating and lovely thing about all of divinity is that those oversoul structures are incredibly, incredibly precise. When you get an intuitive download, it's not just something that might work better than what you're already thinking. It's the absolute best possible outcome or the absolute best path ahead based on a massive, massive calculation of what's best for you and for all of divinity, for everything. at its core, without any manipulation, without any decisions being made that I can do better than this, you have the best possible thing playing out everywhere, constantly. And things get better and better, very smoothly, organically, easefully, forever. So looking around at the world, when you learn to trust yourself and learn to settle back into the context and realization that you're pulling from all of divinity, it's not just an arrogant, emotional decision that you're wanting to make. It's not that you're ignorant or there's something wrong with you or there's plenty that you don't know to be able to make a better decision. It's that you're getting the purest and truest possible answer ever in all of existence for your circumstances here and now. You're getting this calculation through this Oversoul unit, and that ideally, this is simply how reality works. It truly does get to be that easy, that simple. It doesn't need to be immense cognitive figuring out of how to do everything. It doesn't need to be massive amounts of research to figure out exactly what's best ahead. It doesn't need to be learning through a massive education from what's already here of who you need to be or how you need to be in order to create value in the world to then push value into the market so you can be taken care of. It does not need to be that complex. It doesn't need to be that disheartening when you feel as though you have to do things in order to be taken care of that aren't you at all. None of that's real. It's the largest misconception in all of creation, the largest misconception in all of existence, is that you as the individual can do better than the ideal. So this is two things. One, this is permission for you to land even deeper into your own solidity and trust your truth above everything else. Because you're not trusting just your truth above the truths of the planet or of the collective. You're trusting divinity above the truths of the collective. And that's always a good decision. And it gives you a level of solidity from pushback because you recognize that when something is in disagreement or is trying to manipulate you in a different way than the thing that you already know to be true, that the only reason why that's happening is that someone, somewhere along the line in that system or in that information stream, is living underneath a paradigm that's whole point is to pretend that they can do better than the ideal. To pretend that they can do better than the power of all of divinity. So with this alone, with this permission to land even deeper into your being, to solidify into everything that you are, and with this stability, you can fulfill your life's purpose and mission on this planet. Just with this. Because your life's mission and purpose is to land your soul essence into your body. To allow yourself to have that intuitive experience, to allow yourself to trust your soul. To land your essence into your body, and then to radiate that essence out into the world through your actions, through your choices, through your messaging, through your interactions with others. Despite what the world may think about that, despite what the consensus paradigm may be in any given moment. When you know that you're tapped into all of divinity, that there's a structure called the Oversoul that you can invoke at any time. I call in my Oversoul. to find the truth of what's really there, even in the most confronting of moments. When you know that you are a piece of divinity and you are receiving information directly from divinity, what reason is there to trust anything but that? What reason is there to do anything but that? And this is the realization that will push on all of your body's ideas, all of your bodily programming, all of the lingering thoughts and emotions that run differently. This is the realization that will begin to press that out of your being, because you recognize that anything that says you cannot do the thing that divinity is telling you you can do in this moment fundamentally isn't true. That it doesn't matter what business strategies out there. If the business strategy that you're getting, even if that's do nothing right now and land these energetics, no matter how confronting that may be, that the business strategy you're getting from divinity, of course, is going to work better than the business strategy of the times, built and birthed from these ideas of I can do better than what's already here. I can do better than the divine connection that's already here. And this is that question of what's here that David and Miriam ask constantly, almost annoyingly so. That points not just to, so what's here, what's happening, but is really a direct question to your soul, asking, what's really here from divinity? What's the action item from divinity? What's the truth that you're receiving from divinity in this very moment for what there is here for you to do in this particular circumstance? And when you come to that truth, it doesn't matter what your mind may make up for what you need to do in the next 4 minutes in order to be safe, or in the next 4 weeks in order to be safe, because this is real-time truth based on a calculation that couldn't be done on all the computers of your planet at the same time. The computing power of divinity is unimaginable. Scanning through every single probability for every single individuated soul in all of existence, and distilling all that information down into the thing that's really here for you right now in this particular circumstance, given what everyone else around you in that circumstance is most likely to do. You have access to the most powerful decision-making force in all of existence, and it's simply you. You have access to the most powerful thing you could ever bring to this planet, and it's simply you. And you have access to the truth of you that will begin to rewrite everything that you thought you were into everything that you truly are. This is spirituality. Not how can I manipulate my thoughts and emotions in order to manipulate the energetic for myself to get what I want. Not how do I delete everything that's here from my consciousness so that I can pretend I'm somewhere else, or I can pretend I feel better. Many of the spiritual ideas that are around and lingering do deal with etheric phenomena, do deal with energetics, but are still of the first paradigm. How can I manipulate what's already here for my own personal gain? How can I distort what's already here to get a good deal from the people that I'm interacting with? How can I take just a little bit more than what's really here? And underneath that, of course, is because if I don't, I won't be taken care of. Because if I don't do what's really here, or if I don't manipulate the circumstances, then my entire life's going to implode because I don't have enough money. Because my work as I truly am isn't valuable enough. Because my essence as I truly am isn't potent enough. People don't care enough. So divinity, I know you made the most powerful calculation in all of existence, but I really think you're wrong. I'm not capable of this. I really think you're wrong. I can do better than that. But the truth is, of course, is that you can't do better than that because it's ideal. And even the times that you can do better than that for yourself, even in the duration of your own life, you'll feel the ripple effects of that taking, and it'll only harm you. There are these ideas like God is love that really help to frame this idea of this larger orchestration, because the things that all of divinity is nudging you to do and to step into are for your absolute highest benefit. It's the best your life could ever possibly go. It's the most you could ever possibly do. It is the path that leads to something greater than any other path ever could. Something more embodied, more you, more impactful. This larger orchestration is loving to you as an individual, and it's also loving to everything in existence, because by trusting yourself, the ripple effects that happen from you making that decision and not the more self-serving decisions are profound. Without getting too deeply into it, just by choosing light here on this planet, you're developing new technologies for other civilizations. You're developing new technologies for all of existence. Because we recognize that it's difficult here. But there are many eyes on you throughout all of divinity. There are many beings, individuated souls anchored in their own physicalities and their own collectives that are very interested with what's happening here. Because you are learning to choose the light even in the toughest circumstances. Even in a collective that fundamentally runs on the first paradigm. That if you don't take for yourself, if you don't do things your own way or our way, then things will go badly. Then you'll be homeless, then everything will fall apart. You are facing certain doom. You're facing pushback from society. You're facing pushback from even those closest to you at times. And when you still choose that anyway, you inform all that is everywhere that it's possible to choose the light even in all of these circumstances. All of you here are modeling for all of reality something very similar to how Christianity looks at the figure of Christ. If he can do it, we can do it. If she can do it, we can do it. There's a way. The path has already been paved. That being just one bullet point on a list 1,000 items long is an effect that you have on all of existence. And these are the things that are already baked in to just that intuitive knowing that comes in an instant, and you know without a shadow of a doubt that this is the thing that's truly here for you. This is the program that's truly here for you. This is the new embodiment that's truly here for you. This is the conversation that's truly here for you. This is the second paradigm monthly event that's truly here for you. When you feel those pings, it is a win-win-win across everything. And nothing else could possibly be better. So to everyone who tries to convince you that there is something better, or that you're not enough in what's already here, whereas before you may have felt certain pieces getting hooked, saying maybe I could do more, maybe I could work harder, maybe I could have better messaging, maybe I could explain this a little bit better, maybe I could just do something else entirely to make more money and end this suffering. Ideas that maybe used to hook, we'd love to give permission to fall off to an even greater degree. In the recognition that you're not just doing the thing that you think is best, you're following the guidance of a massive calculation of light and truth. And in that, light and truth will never lead you astray. So keep going, keep trusting, and welcome home into the truth of what's already here, into the truth of being an individuated soul connected to all of divinity and trusting that connectedness, recognizing that of course it works better than a few disconnected, individuated souls who pull themselves away from that massive calculation of everything that's good and true could ever possibly come up with. Of course, the second paradigm of recognizing that you're connected to all of it works better than the first paradigm of darkness, of confusion, of arrogance, of ignorance. So again, welcome home.
If you enjoyed this channel night, there's more where that came from at thesecondparadigm.com. Join the club. We'd love to have you.